Alright, good afternoon, guys. I hope everyone is doing well. So, I think I would like to start documenting my gardening experience and sharing it with you guys through a video format. It's something I've been thinking about for a while now, but I've been very much stuck in my head because, you know, I tend to overthink. And left to me, I would prefer to have had every detail sorted out of down pat before I started and took the plunge. But that would take a while. So I figured, why not just try something, see how it is received, and then as time goes by, I will see how I could adjust and improve accordingly so that it better suits my intent and it will meet your needs much better. So, the point of this first video is to talk about sweet basil. And this was the plant. Sorry for the background noise. I can't tell you the loud noise. But this was the plant that you guys requested that I give some gardening tips about in my most recent Instagram story. I think the worst is over. So some background. A fun fact about sweet basil. Interestingly, it is a member of the mint family. It has several uses. Personally, I've used it in my cooking. So in dishes that are Italian or Mediterranean inspired, so think spaghetti and meatballs, pastas, pestos, pizza, I would use sweet basil in those dishes. However, it is not limited to having a purpose only in the culinary field, but it also has been said to have medicinal benefits. Whilst I've never used basil medicinally, from my research, it has been said to be helpful in alleviating things like the common cold or mild body pains, and some persons even use it consistently to help in the management of diseases that involve chronic inflammation, such as diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. So basil is quite healthy. In terms of its nutrient profile, it has vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin K, as well as some minerals, like manganese and iron. It is also quite rich in antioxidants, and it is these antioxidants that help in reducing the effects of diseases like diabetes and cancer, because antioxidants work against to help reduce the free radicals that are rampant in those diseases. So that's just a bit of background concerning the sweet basil. Now talking about how is it grown. So in my experience, sweet basil grows fairly easily from seed. However, if you feel like you have less than a green thumb, I don't feel like I have the greenest of thumbs, but thumbs get greener with practice, right? But if you feel like you have less than a green thumb, it's just a matter of getting a basil seedling and then transplanting the entire soil clod into a new container, and the basil will grow from there. Since we started talking about containers, in my experience, I've been strictly container gardening. I have some small space by my land, but my land doesn't have the best soil and it's not the most readily available or the most easy to till. So I have been container gardening primarily, predominantly, solely. Only container gardening. So I have been growing basil in containers like this, and this right here is a 1 gallon paint bucket. It has drainage holes, which is very important for every plant because yes, they need water, but the water also needs a place to escape. So I have been using a 1 gallon container, and you could also use a 5 liter Blue Waters bottle or some water bottle, and plant your basil there, and it will grow quite nicely. As you can see, it's not even filled to the very top, but the basil plant has grown quite well. In terms of soil requirements, basil does need sun. All plants need sun because photosynthesis. However, it doesn't require a whole lot of sun. So if you can put in a sunny spot that gets at least 4, maybe 5 hours of direct sunlight every day, be it inside or outside your house, your basil should grow fine. In terms of the soil that you use, again, speaking from experience, basil doesn't seem to be that picky. I have grown it, although the soil medium is different now, but when I first started, I grew it in a predominantly clay soil medium. And for those who may not know the different soil types and their properties, let's use clay, loam, and sand. So sand has the largest particles, and so water drains through it very quickly, doesn't retain water very well. Clay has the smallest particles, and so because of that, it retains water very well, sometimes too well. And loam is the perfect mix of sand, clay, and other smaller particles that has well-drained soil, right? So I have grown it in clay, which is not the best draining, not pure clay. It was predominantly clay mixed with some other organic matter. So it wasn't, yes, it wasn't pure clay. But the point is, it grew. It grew. But the ideal for growing basil, or in fact most plants, is a well-draining, as much of a loam consistency, so a mixture of clays, sands, and other medium-sized particles. A loam soil consistency would be ideal for growing basil, but it would still grow in soil that is less than ideal. So don't think you have to have the perfect soil for it to grow basil. I just don't recommend growing it in sand. I don't think basil will grow well at all in sand because, yeah, just too well draining. So that's it. So we talked about the container, we talked about the sun requirements, we talked about the soil requirements. I think that is more or less it. In terms of fertilizing, for a long time I never fertilized this plant. It's only recently I got hold of some organic fertilizer, and so I added to it. And so I could only tell you about the experience with fertilizer probably a couple of weeks from now. But as for me and my house right now, this basil has never been fertilized and it has grown quite nicely. A final note, slugs and snails, they love basil a lot more than we do, to the point that they will eat it down to the very nub. And this was the experience with this plant and several other basil plants that I had started growing last year. So the slugs and snails in my yard, they annihilated the basil. But the good thing is that at least if basil had at least 1 or 2 leaves, it will recover. It will take some time, but it will recover. And this plant has been recovering. It started with, I think, probably just 2 leaves left on this stalk, but it has grown out quite nicely. It's growing tall. And if I remove the head, it will actually start growing a lot bushier versus just growing vertically. For now, I would like it to get taller and then I will let it bush out, but yeah, this is a recovery plant and it has grown so well from since the time that I planted it. When did I grow it? I did not keep the best record of my plantings last year, but I'll say probably around September. So the basil grows well, it grows quickly. Once you see it gets at least some decent sunlight, some well-draining soil, some good watering. I water my basil every day. Does it need to be watered every day? I'm not too sure. I will not test that theory because I don't want my basil to die. But yes, it doesn't hurt to water it every day. And that's basically it. So I hope this video is informative and it inspires you guys to at least start dabbling in growing your own food, because it really is a liberating feeling. My goal is to become self-sufficient, and every day I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to that goal. So by God's grace, I hope it is something that I can see in my lifetime. But yes, so that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to grow sweet basil. And yes, happy growing, guys. So just some additional information. So I planted these 2 plants in January, around January the 22nd. They were very small. If my editing talents allow me, I would see if I could insert a picture, but if I can't, forgive me, of how they looked when they were first planted. And this is how they're already looking end of February. So this is a month's worth of growth. So the basil grows well. So in a month's time, you can start harvesting your few leaves to put into your dishes, because again, you really don't need that much basil. When you see you're cooking, basil has a very strong flavor. So a little goes a long way. So in a month's time, you could be harvesting leaves to add, fresh basil leaves to add to your dishes or to use medicinally, however you desire to use it. So yeah guys, get growing.